You're listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, brought to you by Global Convenience Store Focus, featuring senior retail executives and experts in the global convenience, fuels, and mobility retail industry. Hosted by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, and Carolyn Schnare. Welcome to the Future of Convenience podcast. I'm here with my buddy Nick Scherzer. Nick, how you doing today?
I'm good, Carolyn. How are you?
Good to be with you today. So, Nick, what are we doing today?
So, Carolyn, today we're talking with ST1 from the Nordics, and it's a company we visited a number of times, particularly in Norway. And we're going to be hearing a bit about their eMobility strategy, thinking back and looking at the journey that they've been on. We're going to be talking within that a bit about their shift from partnering with others to doing it themselves, and thinking about the customer experience and how that differs with an EV driver versus a traditional ICE vehicle driver. And they've got some really interesting insights around the new characteristics of those customer behaviors. And they're doing some really interesting things in the market in terms of their sites, which we'll be talking to them about.
Kempower designs and manufactures reliable and user-friendly DC fast charging solutions for electric vehicles. The company's vision is to create the world's most desired EV charging solutions for everyone, everywhere. Kempower's product development and production are based in Finland and the US, and most of the materials and components are sourced locally. The company focuses on all areas of e-mobility, from electric cars, trucks, and buses to machines and marine. The modular and scalable Kempower satellite charging system and world-class software are designed by EV drivers for EV drivers, focusing on offering the best user experience for the company's customers worldwide. Learn more at kempower.com. Well, our guests today are both from ST1, as Nick mentioned, and they're both on the eMobility team. We have Erik Anker, who is the Business Development Manager, and Daniel Campos, who is the eMobility Analyst. Welcome, guys. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.
Good to see you both.
Likewise.
Well, Nick, you gave a little bit of a background, but I'd really love to hear more about ST1. So, Erik, if you don't mind, just give us a little background.
Yeah, happy to. ST1 is a Nordic energy company, basically operating what we like to call energy stations in the Nordic countries, Finland, Sweden, and Norway. We are operating 1,270 sites, branded as either Shell or ST1. But ST1 is not only operating retail sites. We're also involved in renewable energy, like electricity, wind, biogas, and renewable diesel production.
It's really interesting. And I think particularly for our audience and the industry of petrol convenience retailing, you guys have been on your eMobility journey for a number of years now, and it's been fascinating and a privilege to have visited you a number of times and seen the developments of that journey over the years. Can you tell us a bit about that journey and where you guys are at on that journey?
Well, I think the eMobility journey started back in 2016, where we decided to kind of open our first charging site at one of our traditional fuel stations. Back then, it was kind of we didn't really know a lot about the technology. We just saw that the Norwegian government were throwing money at one technology, and we thought we need to be part of this journey and start to learn. So that's when we decided to kind of jump in and take the decision to establish our first site. As a Norwegian now, I don't think you anymore ask why you establish charging sites at the retail sites, because 95% of all new vehicles sold in Norway in August, they were electrical. So in order to stay relevant for the consumer, we really need to be part of this journey. And that's basically where we are today.
Yeah.
So we see that.
Well, and I thought you made an interesting point when we were talking earlier was around the fact that you've moved beyond the why. And I think in the early part of that journey and thinking about the investment levels and where you go with eMobility back in 2016, 17, and that time period versus now, and to your point around 98% of new vehicle sales in Norway being EV, you the market itself has moved beyond why. And I think from a strategic point of view for traditional gas station or petrol station retailers, the why has gone. And it's really now about figuring out what do those sites look like, need to be from a customer experience point of view, and how the economics of all of that works. So I'm guessing you've learned a lot along that journey and along that path.
Yeah, we have. It's been a learning curve, definitely. And we started in a kind of partnering with other CPOs at our sites. I think that was basically to share the risk of this new technology coming. And it was a good start for us. We've done a lot of learnings, and we're gathered data now for almost 10 years soon. But along the way, we saw that there's an opportunity for us to be a bigger part of this journey, and we have decided to become a CPO ourselves and operate these sites on our own. I think we took that decision in 2022, and now we are up and running with 40 of our own sites in the Nordics, in all three countries. So
that's really interesting, and I think around the world, and we've seen a number of retailers who began the journey partnering with CPOs, and over time realized the real commercial opportunity to do it themselves, and effectively, like you put it, become a CPO yourself at your existing sites. Daniel, maybe if I bring you in at this point, and your thoughts on that shift from towards doing it yourself effectively in terms of owning and managing and investing in the EV charging infrastructure yourselves at your own sites, and why your thoughts on that shift.
Yeah, obviously, one part of it is just like the short term economics of it. That is that we are are operating the locations, so that is one thing, which we see that a lot of the value from the EV comes from having really good locations where the customer wants to be at and wants to charge. But another quite interesting aspect of this is really also about getting to know the new customer. So while being the operator, you obviously are accessing a lot of interesting data points from the customers as well. And also you can take them on more customized journeys towards our brand and our product, which is that's the one way of charging, which is really interesting and allows us also to get to know them and also give them a much more holistic product really when they come and charge. So it's one thing is obviously the economic part, but there's also the more long-term thinking of getting to know the customer and creating a really good product that they enjoy using.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, it's really about the customer experience and owning that customer experience and making sure you're providing that customer experience. And I think somebody in the industry once said to me that you wouldn't outsource your petrol pumps to a third-party company as a petrol station retailer. So if you kind of use that train of thought long-term strategically, why would you do the same thing with your EV charging units?
Yeah, and also like the different customer needs are changing so rapidly when it comes to EV. Like for instance, it was not a big decision, but it was like obviously when the CCS plug was implemented as the standard, obviously it was a big decision for people to look into. But now the CCS plug is quite like the standard for all cars
Right,
that
yeah.
are coming and then putting out. So these demo chargers are not as relevant. So it also is something about what we know now. It's or what we think we know now. It's not how it's going to be in the next few years when it comes to the demands, because we feel like really the demands for an EV customers today are quite low. Really, it's only about are the chargers actually working. That's
Yeah.
a really positive experience as a customer. But we also obviously want to raise the bar there to be competitive on the next stages of this customer demand evolution, which is going to be like obviously the customer journey, like
Yeah.
the maybe the loyalty type of programs and all of these kind of things that most likely are coming down the road for everybody.
Well, it's such a fast evolution too. It's totally the building the plane in the air kind of scenario. I mean, with petrol or gasoline, I mean, you had a century's worth of knowledge to build on. It wasn't exactly like moving too quickly. But here, like you just said,
Yeah.
the plugs are different, the cars are different, and they're changing within hours, days, months, years. It's like, oh, everything's different. Fix this, change this. So, that's you got quite a job to keep up with.
Yeah, there's also a really interesting like cultural difference here. Obviously, our whole company comes from the fuel world, and the EV is so new. So we have like a long legacy of things that we have implemented for 60 to 70 years, which is like, for instance, competitor pricing, all of this. If you ask a fuel person, they know everything about every single detail. Also, for instance, yeah, if we say to somebody in fuel that you're gonna have some natural electricity loss of of sub 10%, like over 10%, then obviously crazy in the office if we had 10% loss on fuel. But that's totally natural when it comes to the EV world. So it's also like a cultural difference, not only with us, but with the vendors as well, because we can ask questions and have demands, but
Yeah.
like the EV world hasn't gotten there yet, really.
Yeah, and I mean, in that, I think there's a real recognition how early we are in this journey of understanding where the customer is. And you used a phrase, customer demand evolution. And I think that's really interesting because I think for EV drivers at the beginning, the expectation has been so low for what an on-the-go charging experience is, and in many countries that's still the case. And Daniel, to your point, the fact that the charge is working is kind of the bar at which it's set in terms of their customer experience. And I think to me that's one of the things in the Norwegian market that's really moved on in the last couple of years is thinking about the elevation of that customer experience. And Erik, you mentioned earlier, we were talking a bit about convenience and the overall concept. And I guess, it's the importance of, it's not just about the EV charging, it's the whole experience of the concept that you're providing for on-the-go charging. Tell us a bit about ST1's thinking around that, Erik.
Well, yeah, we've chosen to kind of put the customer needs in the front. So it's a customer-centric approach. It's about being reliable and robust, so it always works, and it's should be quick, limited queuing, and then it should be easy. And I think one of the pain points, at least here in the Nordics, is about the payments. So creating an easy payment solution using tapping the credit card. You don't need an app. You don't need a lot of or an RFID tag to start the charger. It should be easy, and I think we have been accomplished that, a successful platform to continue the growth.
That's certainly a pain point everywhere in the world, I think, for EV drivers, is the ease of payment is high up on that list of customer experiences. I think one of the things you guys are doing that I found particularly interesting is the new site in Oslo, and I know it's in construction at the moment, but I think the thought process behind it shows real leadership from yourselves within the industry. So the site I'm talking about, which you guys are obviously aware of, had been in, and correct me if I'm not right here, but it had been an existing petrol station site, very successful for many years. You've now taken the decision to remove all of the petrol pumps from that site and replace them with EV charging only. And is part of that the thinking in doing that is to use this as a site to better understand the EV customer, and what the characteristics of that recharge only customer is?
I think, yeah, it's partly that, but I think mostly this is a site located centrally in Oslo, the capital of Norway. So it's an area where there are a lot of EVs. So that is kind of probably one of the main drivers. But yeah, it's a place where it makes sense to try this out. And I say
Yeah.
try because we're still in a learning phase. So and what you're mentioning, I think we're very interested in all the data that we can get out of this site. And yeah, and there will be learnings, we hope.
Yeah. Daniel, what are your thoughts on that site and that topic?
Yeah, I think it depends on what word you want to put on it, but for us, it will be like some sort of a pilot where we are going to use it to really learn and see what is the new EV customer really like, what are the needs and what do they want? Because one of the biggest differences here is obviously could be what from the retail side of this is interesting for an EV customer when their time spent on the station goes from 5 minutes in the fuel world to plus 20 minutes in the EV world. So it's going to touch upon a lot of different things when it comes to designing the sites, when it comes to finding what type of products we're offering within the site as well, and how it really is to let's hang out, or if even the customer wants to do it, or they just want to sit in the car with privacy. Like it's going to be
Yeah.
really interesting to see what the best thing for the customer is, and why really EV customers are picking one site over the other when they have so many choices today. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And in those urban sites in Oslo, where you have a very high density of EV vehicles on the road, are you guys seeing people charging for as long as 20 plus minutes? Or do you find some of those drivers are just topping up for 10 minutes and moving on again? Daniel?
Yeah, I think it really depends on like from site to site, but I think the most of them actually, if they take the time to charge, it's more like you're wasting time if you're not taking the extra 10 minutes, then you're wasting time on charging, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I
So
understand. If you're
it's a
going to
bit
stop,
the
you're
other
going
way.
to charge for long enough. Yeah.
Yeah, but obviously not until like the charging curve is too bad, or not too bad, but too low. So it comes to a point, but I think most of them we are seeing stay for we haven't seen short as 10 minutes, but obviously that we have people coming in as a pit stop just to get home, then they charge. But in those dense areas in the city, we really also see that.
So what do you call it? I mean, it's obviously we're gonna have a little language barrier here. We call that a gas station.
Yeah.
What do you put? What does it say on like Google Maps?
Hopefully energy station.
Energy station. I like it.
Yeah.
It's a good point, because it's, that site in particular is no longer a gas station, but an energy station. And with that, Daniel and Erik, to your point, comes a different customer behavior, and how do you actually cater to that 20-minute plus stop versus the 5-minute just in and out. And it'll be a really interesting insight, and you'll learn a lot, I'm sure, from that, in addition to the other sites that you have.
Yeah, definitely. I think just back to the energy site. I think that it's a hurdle to get people to use that word. We have been trying for a very long time, because there's so much other than gas we offer to the market. Not only energy for the car, but energy for the customers as well.
So to both of your points, and I know this isn't necessarily your area because you're both on the e-mobility side, but here in the United States anyway, we have corners with sometimes 4 gas stations, or maybe someday energy stations, on each corner. So you have some reason to go there. And at this point, it's price usually is what drives people into those stores. But as there's more and more energy stations throughout the places you operate, how are you planning looking forward to not just be just another place on the corner? What are you doing to bring in those customers? Or where are you hoping to go, now in the near future?
Well, I think this is all about the total offering that we can provide. Obviously, we've been car focused and car driven, so kind of combining energy with natural offers to kind of maintain and keep up the car. We also need to further develop our offering also for food and drinks and everything. Stay relevant also inside the stores, and we have done a lot here in the Nordics. I would say at least to kind of become something different than the traditional gas station. We really want to be an energy station, also in the sense of the food and the drink we offer in store. And it's about healthy choices. It's about creating bigger meals and different types of meals depending on which time of the day you visit us. So we totally understand we need to stay relevant on all dimensions, not only the energy for the car.
Gotcha. Daniel?
Yeah, and I also think you can see some example of that throughout the countries. Obviously, each station is going to have its own characteristics. So, for instance, this Marienlyst, it's in the middle of the city, it would be really important to have a good food concept and all of these loyalty kind of things, because obviously the customers there are going to be ongoing ones that live in the area. But also one other site that we spent a lot of time on that you guys also know is the Lunelia one, which also shows a bit of the depth of what potentially a future energy station can look like, where you have like a playground, you have an area where your like pet can run around. There's also a clear distinction between the B2B area of that site with the B2C area of the site. So also, like, for safety reasons, that you don't have trucks driving around there. You also have waste areas for like these camping trucks and all of these kind of things. So, and in Sweden also, we actually have a concept where we are like positioning basically with premium bathrooms also, which we believe it's a huge driver for picking the location you're stopping at. At least when I'm driving a car and going on a longer trip, I used to say that obviously I'm driving, so it's let's say, call her the CEO next to me, which is picking the good location to stop, and she obviously values a clean bathroom. So it's all of these kind of things, because now you're not stopping. As I said, you're not stopping for 3 minutes. You might hang out there for 20. So it's really about understanding the surroundings of that space as well. So
yeah. And Daniel, that comes back to your point about this customer demand evolution. And I think that's the journey our industry in general is on, and both in Norway, where I think you guys are well ahead on that journey, but around the world is thinking about now, how do you raise the bar in terms of that overall customer experience and make this a destination for, as an energy station, regardless of whether the customer's stopping to fill up with fuel or recharge, whatever the experience is, that you're catering to those needs.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be quite an evolution all around. I think it's interesting because, we're all in different points in this journey. I mean, here in the US, well, we won't even go there. We know where we are on that in terms of charging and whatnot. So it's really cool to see a model like yours trying everything. So thank you for giving everybody in the world a footprint on what to do next. You got us blueprints on where to go. And I look forward to someday coming over and seeing some of your sites. I know we can see some on our website, which is Global Convenience Store Focus, under the EV Hub section that we have there from last year's competition. You guys had a really cool video. We could see what's going on there, some cool photos. And I'm not going to pronounce the name of the city that's in because I will completely butcher it. But maybe Nick, you can try.
The lonelier site, but I'm not pronouncing it correctly either. But that's right. There's a video of that site and photographs, and really interesting to see the great work you guys are doing there.
Yeah, and I think one of the quite interesting things is that I think the whole industry really is kind of forced to innovate, and in this industry is also not very used to innovate because it's had this cash cow for so long. And it was quite funny when we talked to our colleague. He said that the largest innovation we've had within this space, within the energy stations within the Nordics, is really selling these hot dogs, because that obviously took the retail revenue through the roof. So that is also something about learning to be customer driven. It's also just a journey in itself. It's fancy and, let's say, exotic to say, but it's something also to like breathe it day in and day out and have processes and all of these kind of things to actually be able to do it. It's not easy.
Yeah, it's a really good point. Yeah.
Well, this has been great. It's really been great learning from you, Erik and Daniel. Thank you so much for sharing about your journey and then also the customer journey that you're also traveling on as well with all of us. So, Nick, Erik, Daniel, thank you so much for being on the show with us today. And thank you so much for listening to the Future of Convenience. You've been listening to the Future of Convenience podcast, produced by Dan Munford, Nick Scherzer, Jenna Ferguson, and Lorraine Evans. It is produced, edited, and mixed by Carolyn, Schnare, and music is provided by Jukebox Music. Tune in every other Friday for new episodes, and please subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Learn more at globalconveniencestoreFocus.co.uk.